He said that my baby just died, and then that he threw her in a dumpster. Like she was trash.
It's late on January 4th, 2022, and 17-year-old Zion Foster walks out of her Detroit home just before 11 p.m. She tells her mother she's spending the evening with her favorite cousin, something she does at least twice a month. Her boyfriend gets a final text at 12:59 a.m. that reads, "OMW, on my way." But Zion never makes it home. And when her mother reaches out to that cousin the next morning, desperate for answers, he delivers shocking news that changes everything. He claims he hasn't seen or spoken to Zion in years. This is the Zion Foster case, and tonight we're breaking down the top 4 moments that exposed the truth behind her disappearance and led investigators straight to a killer hiding in plain sight. The morning of January 5th, 2022 starts with a panic for Sierra Milton. Her eldest daughter, Zion Foster, hasn't returned home from the night before. Zion is a senior at East Detroit High School who just turned 17 in November. She works at the Detroit Wing Company and finished her serving shift the previous evening before asking permission to go out. Sierra agreed because Zion was honest about where she was going, to spend time with her cousin Jalen, someone she visited regularly. But now her phone goes straight to voicemail, and text messages aren't being delivered. Zion's boyfriend, Vertez Gonzalez, is equally frantic because his last message from her was that brief OMW text at 12:59 a.m., and by 8:53 a.m., he's messaging her, "Are you alive?" followed by, "This is the worst thing ever." Sierra immediately reaches out to Jalen Brazier, the 23-year-old cousin Zion claimed to be visiting, but his response stops her cold. Jalen insists he wasn't with Zion the night before and asks Sierra exactly how often Zion had been claiming these visits. When Sierra tells him once or twice a month, Jalen messages back in frustration, calling Zion's supposed lies about him sneaky and dangerous. He suggests Zion must have been using him as a cover story to see someone else who lives near his house, maybe a neighbor or someone on his street. Then he tells Sierra to go to the police, but specifically requests to be kept out of it entirely. Vertez isn't buying any of this. The teenager had been tracking Zion's location on her phone, something she'd allowed him to do. At 11:24 p.m. the previous night, her location placed her directly across the street from Jalen's house in East Point. Vertez, admittedly a bit insecure in their relationship, had even taken a screenshot of that exact location at the exact time. He floods Jalen's phone with messages and confronts him with the screenshot. Jalen responds by sending back footage from his Ring camera system, claiming there are no entries showing Zion at his house because she was never there. When Sierra takes Zion's disappearance to the East Point police, she hits a wall of indifference. Officers tell her bluntly that they're treating this as a runaway situation because Zion has a history. The year before, at 16, frustrated with her mother's rules, Zion had briefly run to her grandmother's house. She'd returned home but left again shortly after, prompting Sierra to call police, though it turned out to be another false alarm. Now, with that history on file, law enforcement shows little urgency. One officer at the station doesn't mince words, telling Sierra directly that they're handling this as a runaway case, nothing more. Receiving almost no help from police, Sierra takes matters into her own hands. With family and friends rallying around her, she launches a grassroots search effort. They print and post flyers all over Detroit and East Point. They hold rallies. They speak to local media outlets, pleading for the public's help. Meanwhile, officers are eventually sent out to Jalen's home to ask some basic questions. When they arrive, they find him there with his longtime girlfriend, Katrina Smith.
How you doing? What's going on, man? You Mr. Brazier?
Yes, sir.
What's your name, ma'am? Okay. You guys know Zion?
Yes.
So, they were saying...
Jalen invites the officers inside and offers to let them look around freely. He He explains that he last saw Zion nearly a year earlier, back in May 2021. He repeats his claim that Zion's mother and her boyfriend seem fixated on the idea that Zion was with him that night, but he insists it's all a misunderstanding. He shows them his Ring camera footage, pointing out that there's nothing showing Zion at his house.
I was like, she was never here, but her location did say she was here, and that house across the street. I was like, but she was never here. I don't know. But anyway, I got cameras to show her that she was never here.
19
But Sierra isn't convinced. When she reviews the footage herself, she notices what appear to be gaps in the entries for the night of January 4th. It looks like footage has been deleted. Jalen maintains his innocence, claiming Zion was never at his house, even though her location data clearly placed her on his street. The East Point police found nothing suspicious during their search, no signs that Zion had been there. They listen while Jalen vents his frustrations about being dragged into drama caused by a 17-year-old cousin he rarely sees.
The times when I left is when I took her to work and we came back, went to get gas. Just basically showing this girl was never in my house. So
We believe you, man.
and she's known to be a runaway. Like she's ran like 4 times, and every time she got some dude's house. Her mom knows this. Her mom's just playing it a certain way, and it's making me so fucking uncomfortable.
She's known to be a runaway?
Yes, I would assume you guys would know that. Not saying like you're not doing your job, just assume she would tell you the damn information.
No, we know. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Jalen may have convinced the officers that night, but he hasn't fooled Sierra Milton. She knows what she saw with her own eyes. She watched Zion leave the house multiple times with Jalen. She greeted him in her driveway when he came to pick up her daughter. She even hugged him. His claim that he hadn't seen or contacted Zion in 3 years is impossible.
He hadn't seen or been in contact with her for 3 years, which is impossible when you were in my driveway and gave me a hug.
This is where the first moment that unraveled the case comes into play, and it's the simplest piece of evidence imaginable. If Zion's location data placed her across the street from Jalen's house at 11:24 p.m., then the neighbor's doorbell cameras would tell the real story. Investigators pull footage from a camera directly across from Jalen's driveway, and at approximately 11:15 p.m. on January 4th, a white sedan, the exact car known to be driven by Jalen Brazier, is captured pulling into his driveway. 2 individuals emerge from the vehicle and walk into the house together, 1 male and 1 female. That footage alone contradicts everything Jalen told the police and Zion's family. Here's what makes this moment even more damning. Jalen had driven his girlfriend Katrina to work just before 11 p.m. that night. Katrina worked the midnight shift at a manufacturing job from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., so she couldn't have been the second person entering the house at 11:15. Phone location data later confirms what the camera already showed. The 2 individuals captured on that footage were Jalen Brazier and Zion Foster. The camera footage continues throughout the night, and here's what it doesn't show: Zion leaving. Then comes the second moment that breaks the case wide open. At 1:41 a.m., the same neighbor's camera captures Jalen pulling his car out of his driveway, then backing it in so the trunk faces the backyard. After a few minutes, the car drives away. It returns to the house less than 10 minutes later. That specific behavior, backing the trunk toward the house in the middle of the night, raises immediate red flags for investigators. Search warrants are quickly obtained for both Jalen's house and his vehicle. The search of the house turns up nothing. Every room is checked, every corner examined, but there's no clear evidence indicating what happened to Zion. The car is a different story. The contents are carefully itemized and examined, but again, there's no obvious smoking gun, no visible proof of foul play. That is, until law enforcement brings in the cadaver dogs. The dogs alert specifically at the trunk of Jalen's white sedan. On January 19th, just 2 weeks after Zion's disappearance, Jalen voluntarily sits down with detectives, accompanied by a friend who happens to be a lawyer. At this point, investigators have already proven he lied about being with Zion the night she vanished. The doorbell footage, the phone records, the cadaver dog alerts, it's all stacking up against him. So Jalen decides to change his story and offer what he claims is the truth this time.
You guys mix up your weed, you roll up, you guys start smoking, you're just watching TV, just chilling?
Yeah, she's telling me about how her mom, their relationship's a lot better than it was the last time she talked to us. And about her boyfriend, about prom, the job and everything, and how she's working on getting an apartment and everything.
You guys are just chilling, and that's all of a sudden she just blanks out like that?
Not when I got up to go give me something to drink.
Yeah.
I came back and she was saying she was tired and everything, and she laid her head back. So okay, I'm let you go to sleep for a bit, whatever.
Okay.
And then about 15 to 20 minutes after that, I was like, okay, are you good? You ready to go home? And she wasn't responding or any of that.
Was her plan to go back home? Head's back on the couch. If she's still alive at that point, he's probably just high or whatever, from the weed. And then you start shaking her. She doesn't wake up. You check her pulse, you said, and you can see she's not breathing, not like that. So at that point, what are you doing?
Freaking out.
Okay, so you're freaking out, and this whole time you've been home.
So at that point in time, we thought she was definitely dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, was she dead? Do you think she was dead at that point, or does she still just have pain breathing and?
It wasn't anything.
There was nothing at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know the difference between dead and alive, right?
I mean,
Was she
not
dead?
breathing. She wasn't breathing, so I assumed that was dead. Her heartbeat was like, I couldn't read a heartbeat, couldn't feel a heartbeat or anything. So I would say she was dead, definitely.
Okay.
Now, I want to have you show us the dumpster,
Definitely.
okay? Because I don't want to mistake it, and I want to obviously get out there and see if she's still there, then we need to recover her, and if not, then we need to do the steps to locate where she's at. Okay? You're okay with that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is the third moment that unravels everything. He wrapped up Zion's body, loaded it into the trunk of his car, the same trunk where cadaver dogs would later alert, and drove to a dumpster. He threw her body away like garbage.
He said that my baby just died, and then that he threw her in a dumpster. Like she was trash.
The fourth and final moment that sealed Jalen's fate wasn't just his confession to disposing of Zion's body. It was everything that came after. In May 2022, Detroit police launched a massive, months-long search at the Pine Tree Acres landfill in Lenox Township. Teams in hazmat suits worked alongside volunteers and cadaver dogs in extreme heat, sifting through tons of trash for nearly 5 months. They found items that confirmed they were searching in the right area, the area where trash from that specific dumpster would have been transported. But despite exhaustive efforts, Zion's remains were never recovered. The search was halted in October 2022, but prosecutors didn't stop building their case. They had Jalen's inconsistent statements, his admission to dumping the body, the doorbell camera footage, the phone records, the cadaver dog alerts, and something else that painted an even darker picture. Digital evidence from Jalen's phone revealed suggestive searches and text messages sent to Zion over months that investigators described as grooming behavior. On June 13, 2023, after an 18-month investigation, Jalen Brazier was officially charged with second-degree murder and tampering with evidence. The trial drew massive media attention and packed courtrooms as 32 witnesses testified. Jalen's defense argued that he panicked after an accidental death, possibly from a marijuana overdose or some other medical issue, and made terrible decisions but never intended to harm Zion. After all the evidence was presented, the jury deliberated for less than an hour before returning a guilty verdict on May 16, 2024. On June 3, 2024, Jalen Brazier was sentenced to 38 to 90 years in prison for second-degree murder and an additional 5 to 10 years consecutive for tampering with evidence. The courtroom reflected a mixture of relief and ongoing heartbreak. Zion's body has never been found, and her family still doesn't have the closure of laying her to rest, but they do have justice. Sierra Milton has continued advocating for systemic improvements in how missing persons cases are handled, especially when the missing person has a history that might cause police to dismiss early concerns. This case stands as a powerful reminder that persistence matters, that families know their loved ones better than anyone, and that the smallest pieces of evidence can unravel even the most carefully constructed lies. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more true crime documentaries that break down cases step by step, like this video and subscribe for more.